I spent 10 years loving Nathan, remembering his favorite watch, waiting for him to choose me. But then I saw a photo from our class reunion. He was there. With her. The same girl I once saw him with in high school, the one he swore meant nothing. He didn't tell me about the reunion. He didn't tell me she'd be there. That's when I knew I was just a placeholder. A week after the wedding, I walked Harvard's campus hand in hand with Leo, the boy I once saved who had loved me in silence. And for the first time I didn't feel too late. I felt free. The wristwatch gleamed under the warm boutique lights, polished silver case, deep navy dial and a smooth leather strap. Just like the one Nathan once admired offhandedly during a late-night scroll through a magazine. Something like this, he had said, is clean, reliable. Feels like it won't go out of style. I remembered the way he said it, so casual, so offhand, probably forgetting it 10 minutes later. But I didn't forget. Now, with his birthday just around the corner, I stood at the counter, wallet in hand, choosing that exact model. Because even if things between us weren't exactly perfect these days, even if our conversations were becoming more practical than warm, I still wanted to do something thoughtful. "Would you like this gift wrapped?" the clerk asked. "Yes, please," I said, forcing a polite smile. As he walked to the back to prepare the box, I pulled out my phone to check the time, but a notification caught my eye. Class reunion chat, new photo. What a night. So glad we could all make it. I almost ignored it. The group had been silent for years. But the thumbnail of the photo looked crowded, familiar. Out of habit, I tapped it open. And then time stopped. A sea of smiling faces. Old classmates. Dim restaurant lighting. The banner in the background read, 10-year reunion. And there at the center, wearing a black jacket, his trademark crooked smile on full display, was Nathan Hale. I froze. Standing beside him, unmistakably close, was Sabrina Lynn. Her arm nearly brushed his, her head tilted slightly toward him. She looked stunning as always, soft waves in her hair, effortless elegance. Like the kind of woman who never had to try too hard to be the center of attention. My fingers clenched around the phone. The caption said it all. Reunion. 2 nights ago. But Nathan hadn't said a word. That night he told me he had an urgent client pitch and couldn't meet up. We'd even been on call. I helped him proofread slides while he scarfed down instant noodles. I'd offered to send food, but he said not to bother. He wasn't working. He was at the reunion. With her. The same girl I'd once thought I'd lost him to. The same girl I'd never been able to compare to. The same girl who once made me feel like I'd imagined all my moments with him. Flashback, 6 years ago. It was the last day of the school festival. I was heading to the art building when I saw them through the open hallway window. Nathan and Sabrina. They were under the banyan tree where we all used to hang out after classes. She was laughing at something he said. He wasn't touching her, not exactly, but he leaned in and there was something in the ease between them that made my stomach twist. I stopped mid-step. The envelope in my pocket crinkled. A note I'd written days ago. My confession. All the feelings I'd kept locked away. But I didn't move. I watched from a distance. And I turned around. I never gave him the letter. Later that afternoon, I found Nathan alone near the gym lockers, taping up a poster for the final event of the night. "Hey," I said, trying to sound normal. He turned, grinning. "Hey, Kara. You left early." "Got tired," I shrugged. I waited a second, then casually asked, "So, you and Sabrina?" He looked confused. "What about us?" I shifted my weight. "Do you feel anything for her?" He blinked, surprised. Then shook his head without hesitation. "No. I mean, she's great, but nah. It's not like that." He said it so simply. Like it wasn't even a question worth asking. I laughed it off, said just wondering, and we moved on to other things. He never asked me why I'd brought it up. I never told him. But that answer, "Nah, it's not like that," had stayed with me for years. A small, silly flame of hope. Present day. "Miss," the shopkeeper placed the now wrapped box on the counter. "Would you like a receipt?" I nodded and took the bag, murmuring my thanks. As I stepped outside, the wind slapped my face, brisk and cold like reality. The image of that group photo burned behind my eyes. Nathan had gone. He had seen Sabrina again. And never once mentioned it to me. I clutched the box in my hand. This watch, this carefully chosen, lovingly saved for gift, now felt like a prop in some joke I wasn't in on. The flashbacks wouldn't stop. Of me standing alone in high school holding back a confession. Of his casual smile when I asked about Sabrina. Of all the birthdays, the coffee runs, the late-night ramen, the ways I had always tried to be enough, waiting for him to see me. No. He was still with her. Or at least close enough to be in the picture. But I wasn't even in the frame. I stood outside Nathan's apartment door with the weight of a ribbon-wrapped box in my hand and the sharpest silence pressing against my ears. It was supposed to be a simple surprise. Drop off the watch, the same one I had picked out with quiet pride only a few days ago, and maybe slip in a card if I had the courage. Something thoughtful. Something soft. But now it just felt like a test I already knew I'd fail. 2 nights. That's how long he'd stayed silent after the class reunion. 2 nights of him pretending he was working late. 2 nights of me making excuses on his behalf. I should have turned around. But I didn't. I lifted my hand to knock and paused. There were voices coming from inside. Muffled but clear. One of them was Nathan's. The other, Mark. I leaned in instinctively. Not to eavesdrop, not intentionally, but something about Nathan's tone pulled me still. Come on, man, Mark was saying. You're overthinking this. Nathan let out a dry laugh. I'm not. She's been with you through everything, Mark pressed. You really gonna screw this up just because Sabrina's back in town? Silence. My stomach tightened. Nathan spoke again, quieter this time, almost like he was trying to convince himself. "'Cause, great," he said. "She's always been great. But, that word could ruin a decade. When someone throws themselves at you, it just doesn't feel the same, you know?" He continued. "It's not like chasing someone. It's not the same satisfaction." My heart dropped like a stone. In my hands the watch felt heavier. My fingers tightened around the box, digging into the ridged paper. It was suddenly hard to breathe. Throwing myself at him? Is that what I'd been doing all these years? The late-night calls. The small surprises. The thoughtful texts. All the ways I tried to fill in the silence he left behind. I took a shaky step back. He couldn't see me right now. Not like this. Not with the truth still echoing behind his door like smoke from a burned bridge. I turned around, my heels quiet against the hallway floor, and pressed the elevator button with a trembling hand. The street outside was unusually bright for a late afternoon. The sunlight hurt my eyes. I walked without thinking, the box still in my hand, my chest burning. At the corner of the block, a green-painted trash bin stood waiting by the curb. I stared at it for a long time. This gift, this stupid, expensive, perfectly wrapped gift, had once meant something. Not just because of what it was, but because I thought I mattered enough to give it. Now it was just proof of how far I had misread everything. Without hesitation I dropped it in the bin. No drama. No second glance. Just gone. When I got home the quiet hit harder than I expected. I walked straight into the bedroom and stood in the center, scanning the shelves, the dresser, the corners filled with years of us. A framed Polaroid from the weekend trip to the lake. Gone. The snow globe he brought me from New York. Gone. The stack of birthday cards. The his and hers coffee mugs. The plush panda from the claw machine he insisted he'd win for me even after wasting $18. All gone. Into a box. No hesitation. No ceremony. I even opened the gallery on my phone and began deleting, one by one. Every photo where I tilted toward him. Every one where I was smiling and he was just standing still. It wasn't anger driving me. It wasn't heartbreak either. It was the emptiness that followed a long, painful wait. I wasn't sad he didn't love me. I was sad that I let myself believe he would. Later that night, as I sat cross-legged on the floor of my living room surrounded by half-filled trash bags and open drawers, my phone buzzed. A new message. Sabrina Lynn. My hands stilled over a photo album I hadn't touched in years. Sabrina, hey Kara. I didn't get to see you at the reunion. Was kind of hoping we'd catch up. A few of yous are planning something more low-key tomorrow. Would love if you came. No emoji. No sarcasm. Just a casual invitation like we were still friends. I stared at it for a while. If this were a few days ago I would have ignored it. Or politely declined. Or texted Tessa in a rage. But tonight, I typed out a reply. Me, sure. Let me know the time and place. Because now I wasn't hiding. Not from Nathan. Not from Sabrina. And certainly not from the truth. If I was going to let go, I wanted to look my past in the eye and say goodbye properly. The restaurant Sabrina chose sat on the outskirts of the city, nestled between hills and tall glass buildings. One of those places with lantern lights and ivy-covered walls, designed more for atmosphere than warmth. It was the kind of place where the food came in curated portions and everyone spoke in slightly lower tones. I arrived 10 minutes early, partly out of habit, partly to keep my nerves in check. Mark waved me over the moment I stepped in. He was Nathan's best friend since high school, still tall and easygoing with that same dimpled grin girls used to whisper about in the hallway. Next to him sat Tessa, the woman he'd been dating for the last 2 years, and my closest friend since college. We met when I first started working. She was bold where I was cautious, fast-talking where I was thoughtful. I loved her instantly. She was also one of the only people who knew how long I had waited for Nathan to come around. Finally, Tessa whispered, pulling me into a hug. You look great. Understated but dangerous. I laughed, grateful for the normalcy she brought with her. Nathan was already there too, seated beside Mark. The moment he saw me, he stood up, reflexive and automatic. Hey, he said softly. Let me take your coat. I've got it, I replied without meeting his eyes. He hesitated, then slowly sat back down. I took the seat next to Tessa across the table from him. It was deliberate. He noticed. Tessa leaned toward me and murmured, "Something happen?" I gave a small shrug. Let's just say clarity came a little late. She raised a brow but didn't ask more. Dinner started politely. The usual small talk. How's work? Have you seen so-and-so? Where did you disappear to after graduation? The noise that fills the space when people don't want to touch anything real. Nathan kept glancing at me like he had something to say. But each time our eyes met, I looked away. I used to believe loving him was my private decision. That no one could take that away from me. But love, unreturned, quietly rots. It eats at the parts of you that once bloomed just from being near them. Now, sitting across from Nathan in a place he didn't invite me to, after a reunion he didn't mention, with a woman he once said meant nothing to him, I wasn't hurt. I was tired. Sabrina arrived fashionably late, as if she'd planned it down to the minute. She swept in through the glass doors, a vision in a modern silk cheongsam, emerald green with delicate gold trim. Her hair was loosely pinned, a few soft curls escaping perfectly on purpose. Heads turned. She gave a small, charming laugh as she walked up to the table. Sorry, traffic was a nightmare. Her eyes skimmed across everyone before landing on me. Okar. You're here. I smiled faintly. Apparently. She slid into the empty seat next to Nathan, who offered a polite nod. Mark and Tessa exchanged a glance, the kind of glance people share when they've seen this story before. I expected tension. Instead, there was a strange, humming politeness. Forced. Fragile. The food came and went in rounds. Appetizers. Wine. Main course. I poked at my roasted duck but barely touched it. It was around the third course that Sabrina reached into her purse. Oh. Nathan, I almost forgot. She pulled out a silver watch and placed it gently on the table in front of him. You left this at my place after the reunion. Still as careless as ever. Time stopped. My fork clinked against the plate. Nathan's eyes widened. I what? Right. I didn't even realize. He fumbled to pick it up as if hiding it would undo the words just said. I helped her back to the hotel, he said quickly, eyes darting to me. She wasn't feeling well. She was tipsy and... Sabrina laughed, tossing her hair. Relax. Nothing happened. By God. The air at the table grew denser. I stared at the watch. It wasn't the one I bought. Of course not. That one was sitting somewhere in a trash bin, untouched, unopened, unloved. But it didn't matter. Because he still went back with her. Because he still never told me. Because he was still hiding it now. The betrayal wasn't in the action. It was in the way he thought I wouldn't find out. I took a sip of my drink. Tasted like nothing. Tessa broke the silence, lifting her glass. A toast, she said. To clarity. Everyone raised their glasses. Sabrina smiled as she clinked hers lightly. And to second chances. The words hit like ice water. I set my glass down. I didn't realize we were doing second chances, I said coolly. Sabrina glanced at me, feigning innocence. Don't worry, Kara. No one's stealing anything from you. Tessa raised an eyebrow. Funny. That's exactly what the last girlfriend said. Nathan gave her a sharp look. Tessa. What? She replied innocently, stabbing a piece of asparagus. I'm just being supportive. Mark cleared his throat, trying to change the subject. So, Sabrina, are you heading back to California soon? She tilted her head. So. I've decided to stay for a while. Maybe permanently. That made everyone pause. I realized, she continued, there are some people in life you don't want to lose again. Her eyes flicked, almost imperceptibly, to Nathan. Tessa set her fork down with a clink. Didn't you just open your design studio in LA? On the top floor of the Hanga building. Sabrina's smile faltered slightly. Yes, but space can be rented. Opportunities come and go. Tessa smiled sweetly. I thought your fiancé paid for that lease. Nathan's jaw tensed. Sabrina paled just a little. Ex-fiancé. And it wasn't like that. Mark cleared his throat again. But Tessa wasn't done. Must be nice, she said, voice calm and pointed, to afford to follow your heart without worrying about who gets burned along the way. That did it. Nathan set his wine glass down, harder than necessary. Can we not turn this into something petty? He snapped. Tessa leaned back, one arm around my shoulder. I'm not being petty. I just hate watching my best friend be disrespected. His eyes slid to me. Kara, he said tightly. Is this really what you think? I didn't answer. He looked at me harder. You think I'm getting back with Sabrina? That I planned all this? You didn't tell me about the reunion, I said flatly. You never mentioned she'd be there. I didn't think it mattered. It mattered to me. The table went silent again. Then Nathan leaned forward slightly. So what, Kara? You're mad I didn't tell you about one dinner? About one night. I looked at the silver watch on the table. The same kind of object I'd once held in my hands. A symbol of thought, of time, of care. Except his had ended up on another woman's nightstand. No, I said. I'm not mad about that. Then what? I'm mad, I said quietly, that it was so easy for you to pretend I wasn't there. The next morning I didn't cry. I didn't text anyone. I didn't replay what Nathan said or what Sabrina meant, or how Tessa had thrown her wine down in glorious defiance. I cleaned. I woke up late, brewed a cup of green tea and opened every drawer in my apartment that had even a trace of Nathan Hale in it. I didn't rage or sob or burn photographs. I just folded things quietly, placing them into cardboard boxes and garbage bags like I was packing up a version of myself I no longer needed. I took down the framed photo from the trip to Nantucket. Tossed the clay mug we'd bought at the street market together. Deleted his half of the Spotify playlist. No theatrics. No announcements. Just silence. The kind that comes when a door inside you finally closes. That afternoon I walked to Harvard's public library. I hadn't been there in months. It used to be my favorite place when I was still planning to apply for grad school. Before Nathan's startup, before his job hunt, before the Kara, can you help me just one more time years. Now for the first time in ages I was there for me. The marble floors felt familiar beneath my boots. I found a corner table on the second floor, pulled out a borrowed GRE book and forced my mind to focus. 2 chapters in, I felt someone sit down across from me. I didn't look up at first. But by the 3rd day it was hard not to notice he was always there. Same seat. Same black hoodie. Same quietly intense energy. Surrounded by girls whispering near the book carts, glancing over their shoulders. But he never seemed to notice them. Only once did his eyes meet mine. And when they did, they didn't dart away nervously. They held still. Day 4 I arrived late. The library was packed. I scanned the floor but found no open seats, not even in the basement reading room. I was about to leave when I heard a voice behind me. You can take mine. I turned. It was him. He stood, slinging his messenger bag over one shoulder. I was just finishing anyway. I hesitated. Are you sure? He nodded. It's all yours. As he stepped aside, I caught a better glimpse of him. Tall, lean, probably early 20s. Pale skin. Sharp cheekbones. Hair slightly messy like he had run a hand through it one too many times. Glasses pushed up on a strong nose. When I sat down, I noticed he'd left a book behind. A slim paperback titled Love Letter from Junichi Yanagi. A piece of paper peeked out from inside the cover. Curiosity got the better of me. I opened it and pulled out a bookmark, hand-drawn, delicate with pressed violets laminated into the edges. On the back was a neat line of handwriting. Hi, I'm Leo-chan. Senior, English Lit. Sorry if this is strange, but I've wanted to talk to you for a while. Would you be open to being friends? There's a window seat at the cafe near the east entrance. The view's great. Come by if you'd like. I blinked. Friends. It was the first time anyone had gently invited me into their orbit. Not demanded. Not assumed. Not expected. Just invited. I didn't go that day. I didn't go the next day either. But on the third I found myself walking toward that cafe after studying. Half by accident. Half on purpose. And there he was, sitting by the window just as promised. One leg crossed over the other, sipping something dark from a glass mug, a novel open on his lap. He looked up. And smiled. You came. I didn't mean to, I said honestly. That's okay, he said. I didn't mean to wait either. I sat down across from him. There was no pressure. No pretending. No careful walking on eggshells dynamic that had colored every conversation I used to have with Nathan. We talked about nothing and everything. He listened. Not the way Nathan used to, half distracted, eyes on his phone, nodding only when I trailed off. Leo listened like my voice was a language he had studied. He remembered what I said. He asked questions no one else bothered to. You're older than me, right? He asked with a mischievous glint. What's that saying, 3 years older holds a gold bar? I narrowed my eyes. I think it's 6 years. 3's close enough. I'll take it. We both laughed. I was still cautious. Still guarded. But for the first time in a long time I didn't feel like I was trying to keep up. I wasn't chasing anyone. I wasn't waiting to be chosen. Leo wasn't running ahead. He was walking right beside me. Leo showed up the following Thursday morning with 2 bags full of groceries and a sheepish smile. I may have overdone it, he said, holding up a pack of rice noodles, 3 jars of chili oil, and something that looked suspiciously like hand-pulled dough. You cook like my grandmother shops for a family of 8, I laughed, stepping aside to let him in. She sounds wise. He moved through my small kitchen like he'd been here 100 times, carefully washing vegetables, boiling stock and seasoning like a pro. I sat on the counter with my knees pulled up, watching him with a growing sense of ease and disbelief. No guessing games. No unspoken tension. No chasing. Felt almost dangerous, how safe I felt with him. After lunch we decided to take a walk. Leo offered to carry the garbage out and I tossed my coat on to walk with him to the bins near the gate. We were laughing about something ridiculous. I think I'd teased him about slicing tofu unevenly, when we turned the corner and stopped short. Nathan and Sabrina were walking out of the next building over. I froze. Leo caught the subtle shift in my expression immediately. Nathan's eyes landed on me. His whole body tensed. He was still in his gray coat, one hand in his pocket, the other holding a paper cup of coffee. Sabrina had her arm looped through his. The second he saw Leo standing beside me, groceries in one hand, my apartment key dangling from the other, his expression cracked. Kara. He said it like a warning. A demand. A tremor. I gave him a flat, polite nod. Nathan. He stepped forward quickly. Can we talk? I'm busy. With him. He nodded at Leo, voice already sharp. You're bringing some guy home now? Leo remained still, silent. Watching. Respectfully waiting for my cue. Nathan's voice dropped. You live alone. Do you think that's safe? Do you think that's appropriate? I crossed my arms. My personal life isn't your business. Sabrina, standing a few steps behind, gave a small laugh. Relax, Nathan. We all get it. Kara's just moving on. Leo's hand flexed slightly, but he didn't speak. Nathan stepped closer. Kara, I'm serious. You don't know this guy. You're being reckless. I stared at him. You're calling me reckless? After what you've done. He looked like he wanted to protest, but I didn't let him. You hid things from me. You kept Sabrina a secret. You lied about a reunion and left your watch at her hotel room. And now you think you have the right to question me? Nathan's jaw tightened. You've really changed. Good. He took one more step, grabbed my wrist. Just tell me who he is. Before I could respond, Leo stepped forward, his voice calm. I'm Leo-chan, he said. Senior at Harvard. English Lit. I like spicy noodles, horror books and slow walks in used bookstores. and I would never hurt her. Now let go of her wrist. Nathan blinked, then scoffed. You're just a kid. Leo tilted his head slightly. And yet I know how to treat her better than you ever did. I almost laughed. But Nathan, instead of saying something else, pointed at me. Soya, I'm warning you. I didn't let him finish. I stepped back, lifted my foot, and kicked him hard in the shin. He let out a yelp, stumbling back with an angry curse. Don't ever touch me again, I said coolly. You and Sabrina? Perfect match. Both full of surprises. Then I turned on my heel and walked toward the building, Leo trailing silently behind me. From behind, I heard Sabrina trying to catch up with Nathan, her heels clicking against the pavement. Nathan, wait, what was that? He didn't answer. He just stared after me, chest heaving, face pale with rage and something far more painful, regret. Go back to California, he finally muttered. Stop ruining what little I have left with her. Leo waited for me just outside my apartment door. I fumbled with the keys, still shaking a little. He reached out and gently took the keys from my hand, unlocking the door like it was nothing. I stepped inside and turned around. He stood at the threshold, unsure. You coming in? I asked. He looked relieved. Only if you promise not to kick me. I laughed, really laughed. And just like that, something new opened. Not loud. Not dramatic. Just quiet. And real. Leo didn't ask me for a label. He didn't push for exclusivity, didn't hint around the topic, didn't hover like he needed me to confirm something for his sake. He just showed up, again and again, in quiet, kind ways that softened the places in me that had been aching for far too long. Every morning started with a knock on my door. Sometimes it was congee with scallions, other times it was a smoothie and handwritten sticky notes that read, "Don't forget to hydrate today." He knew I liked silence in the morning, so he never talked until I talked first. He'd just sit beside me reading a paperback, his shoulder brushing mine occasionally as he turned the pages. I began to crave that silence, not for the absence of noise, but for the fullness of presence. He didn't fill the air with declarations. He just made me feel chosen. Without ceremony, without a stage. Without comparison. One rainy afternoon, I sat curled up on the couch with a wool blanket tangled around my knees and a bowl of fruit in my lap. Leo had just brewed jasmine tea, and the scent wafted through the room like comfort itself. He moved quietly across the space, adjusted the pillows, placed the tea tray beside me. I didn't notice his phone in his hand until I heard the gentle click of a shutter. I looked up, startled. Did you just take a picture of me? He grinned, not apologetic in the least. You looked peaceful. I wanted to remember this version of you. I raised a brow, suspicious. This version. The one where your eyes don't carry him anymore. My heart stumbled in its rhythm. Before I could answer, he tapped something on his screen. Posted. Leo, I gasped. What did you post? He just smiled. Too late. I didn't look at it right away. I didn't want to ruin the quiet. But curiosity won around 9 p.m. as it always did. I opened Instagram, tapped on Leo's profile, and there it was. The photo. Me sitting by the window, bathed in soft golden light. My face half turned toward the glass, the curve of a smile touching my lips like a secret I hadn't noticed escaping. Caption. Girlfriend orange heart. The comments had already started rolling in. No way. She's stunning, smiling face with heart eyes. Who is she? Leo finally posted someone? OMG, the library girl? I shipped this so hard. I stared at it for a long time, phone in hand, heart in my throat. He hadn't asked for permission. He hadn't needed to. He just said it. Like a fact. Like something he already knew and was proud of knowing. And the most shocking part? I didn't feel scared. I didn't feel the urge to hide or shrink or explain. For once, I felt seen in the exact right light. So I took a picture of him in return. Leo was standing at the stove in my kitchen, his sleeves rolled up, glasses slightly askew, carefully plating stir-fried rice noodles onto mismatched blue ceramic bowls. I captured the moment quietly, then posted it with a single word. Boyfriend. No emoji. No hashtags. No soft launch. Just the truth. My phone buzzed within seconds. Tessa. You posted a man? I picked up, already laughing. Hello to you too. You posted a man, she screeched. Without even a warning. Are you alive? Are you in love? Is he breathing? Does he have a twin? I was still giggling when I said, his name is Leo. He reads poetry, cooks like a dream, and knows the difference between listening and waiting to talk. Her tone shifted. You sound different. I feel different. Pause. Then, Cora. Nathan's going to see this. I shrugged, walking to the kitchen and leaning against the counter where Leo had left the chopped ginger. He can't. I blocked him a while ago. Tessa hesitated. Then softly, he's sitting right next to me. I stopped. What? We're at Midtown Bar, she whispered. He's been here for hours. He saw the post through a friend's story. He's drunker. Like muttering your name into a whiskey glass kind of drunk. I'm not going. He's asking for you. I still won't go. Kara, he's spiraling. He said your name 23 times in the last hour. And he's... She didn't finish. I didn't need her to. I found him in a dimly lit booth, surrounded by empty glasses, wilted lemon slices, and a pair of slumped shoulders. His hair was messy. His shirt half untucked. The Nathan I had known, polished, poised, always in control, was nowhere to be found. Tessa nudged Mark and gave me space. I remained by the edge of the table, arms crossed. He looked up and blinked like I was a mirage. Cora. His voice was cracked. Quiet. Slurred. You blocked me. I didn't answer. You posted a picture of some guy, he said, sitting up straighter. You're with him. Yes. His mouth opened like he wanted to challenge that. But he couldn't. Is he real? He's real. Are you? He leaned forward, eyes glassy. Are you doing this to hurt me? I exhaled long and slow. No, Nathan. You did that all by yourself. He winced, leaning back. So that's it? You're just replacing me. I stepped a little closer. Leo isn't a replacement. He's someone who doesn't need 10 years to decide if I matter. He gripped the table. You're just trying to prove something. Maybe. Or maybe I'm finally giving myself what you never would. He shook his head slowly. You never said anything. I did, I whispered. With every version of silence I gave you. Every time I forgave you. Every time I waited, hoping you'd finally see me as more than the girl who never left. His eyes filled, not with tears but something far worse. Recognition. And regret. You don't love him, he said, voice rough. Maybe not yet, I admitted. But he listens. He laughs with me. He sees me. Not the edited version. The unmade bed, tear-stained, grocery in my hair version. He said nothing. I took one step back. You think I did this for revenge, I said, softer now. But I didn't. I did it for me. Because Leo doesn't leave me wondering. He just loves me out loud. Nathan opened his mouth. Closed it again. Then finally, quietly, did you ever love me? I paused. I don't think I loved you, I said. I think I loved the idea that one day you might love me back. Then I turned. And walked away. Outside, Leo was waiting in his car, leaning against the hood with a paper bag in his hand. Hey, he said when he saw me. What's that? I figured you'd need something salty after this, he said. So, fries. And milk tea. I almost laughed. Instead, I stepped into his arms and let the night press against my back while the world fell quiet. For the first time, I didn't feel like I was holding on to the past. I felt like I was choosing the future. Mark and Tessa's wedding was the kind that felt like it had been plucked straight from a bridal magazine. Soft florals, silk ribbons dancing in the breeze, and laughter that lingered like perfume. Every detail shimmered, down to the personalized napkins with tiny gold foil M&T initials stamped near the edge. But none of it shimmered as brightly as the man beside me. Leo wore a sleek black suit, tailored to the inch, collar crisp, and tie knotted in that charmingly loose way that only made him look more confident. When he stepped out of the car to open the door for me, I heard someone audibly gasp. We weren't the spectacle of the wedding, but we were the quiet showstopper that made people nudge their neighbors and ask, "Is that her new boyfriend?" Yes, he was. The courtyard buzzed with music and clinking glasses as we arrived. Leo's hand remained gently at the small of my back as we wove through guests. His fingers didn't tighten or shift when people stared. He didn't shrink. He didn't hesitate. We passed the reception table and someone called out from across the patio, "Kara, you look incredible." I turned with a wave, and that's when I saw Nathan. He was by the champagne fountain mid-pour and mid-stare. His glass tilted slightly, just enough for the liquid to spill over the rim. He didn't seem to notice. His eyes weren't on me. They were on Leo. More specifically, on Leo's hands still resting on my waist. Recognition hit him in stages. First the confusion. Then the narrowing of his eyes. Then the full realization. Leo wasn't just my date. He was someone from years ago. Someone Nathan used to brush past in hallways and barely register. The quiet underclassman who once borrowed my notes and always sat a row behind. Now standing beside me like he had always belonged there. You remember him, don't you? I asked Nathan later that evening when we crossed paths near the dessert table. Nathan's jaw flexed. Leo something. You used to tutor him. Leo Chin. Leo answered smoothly, stepping forward without missing a beat. And I'm her boyfriend now. Nathan blinked. Leo held out a hand like it was a business deal. Which means the competition's officially over. Nathan didn't take it. Leo smiled wider. Didn't think you would. Dinner was served beneath strings of warm fairy lights. Each table glittered with floating candles and mini floral arrangements in delicate crystal vases. Tessa had assigned the seating. And somehow, intentionally or not, Leo and I were seated right across from Nathan. The air was tense. Not openly hostile. But the kind of quiet that pressed against your skin like static electricity. Leo didn't seem bothered. He poured me sparkling water, twirled my chopsticks toward the steamed fish, and cracked a joke that made the table laugh. I felt a few lingering glances, mostly from the bridesmaids, and heard one whisper behind a napkin. He's so attentive. I smiled politely but kept my eyes on my plate. I could feel Nathan's stare burning into my profile. He hadn't said a word since sitting down. Just silently ate, lifted his glass and stared. When I laughed at something Leo whispered in my ear, Nathan's spoon clattered against his plate. No one commented. But I felt the invisible thread pulling tighter. Leo reached over to brush a strand of hair from my cheek. That's when Nathan finally spoke. Funny. You used to hate PDA. I froze. The entire table stilled. I glanced up. Nathan's eyes were dark, unreadable. His chopsticks hovered in midair, rice forgotten. I changed, I said quietly. Nathan didn't blink. No. You just found someone who doesn't mind putting on a show. Leo's jaw twitched. I placed my chopsticks down with a firm click. I'm not an object in a tug-of-war, I said, voice calm but hard. And I'm not going to sit here while you try to prove something. Nathan's eyes snapped to mine. I'm not trying to prove anything. Really? I said. Because this feels a lot like a performance. One you're very late to audition for. He set his glass down, slower this time. Kara, No, I said, holding up a hand. Let's not do this here. Nathan looked around. The table had gone completely silent, but everyone pretended to eat, eyes lowered and shoulders stiff. Only the music played on, soft strings weaving between the tension. I just want a chance to explain, Nathan said, softer now. I made mistakes, but... I laughed bitterly. Mistakes. He hesitated. You slept with someone else, Nathan, I said, voice low but deadly clear. That's not a mistake. That's a choice. Even the wind seemed to pause. His mouth parted but nothing came out. I continued, and I lived with that choice for longer than I should have. Forgave it, swallowed it, buried it. But I won't do that anymore. Leo reached under the table and gently took my hand. Nathan saw it. And this time he didn't say a word. After dinner I escaped to the balcony for air. The stars were dim tonight but the moon was full, bright enough to light the edge of my dress. Leo followed a few minutes later. You okay? He asked. I nodded. Yeah. Just needed a reset. He leaned beside me, elbows on the railing. He looked like someone trying to hold water in his hands, Leo said. Like no matter how hard he squeezed, it still slipped out. He had years, I murmured. And I gave him every version of myself. Quiet, loud, hurt, hopeful. None of it was ever enough to make him choose me fully. Leo didn't answer right away. Then, he didn't deserve you. I turned to him. And you think you do? He met my gaze without flinching. I don't know if anyone deserves someone like you. But I'll spend every day making sure you never have to ask if you're loved. Later during the speeches, Tessa handed me the mic. I hadn't prepared anything. But when I stood at the front, under the glow of lights and cameras, I didn't freeze. I found Tessa's gaze. Then Mark's. Then Leo's. and for the first time I said it clearly. Love, I began, shouldn't be something you have to beg for. It should be loud, kind, and visible. A quiet murmur of agreement rippled through the crowd. Someone once told me that people love in different ways, I continued, and while that may be true, the right person won't make you guess. I didn't look at Nathan. But I didn't have to. I knew he was watching. They'll hold your hand in public, bring you tea when you're sick, and post about you without worrying what anyone thinks. Because to them you're not a secret. You're the answer. I raised my glass. To Tessa and Mark, a love that's loud, kind, and visible. The applause was thunderous. Leo kissed my cheek. Cameras flashed. People cheered. And across the courtyard Nathan clapped too. But his smile never reached his eyes. That night, as guests spilled out into the courtyard and the cake was cut, Nathan stepped outside alone, hands shoved into his pockets. Tessa found him leaning against a column, eyes lifted toward nothing. She looks happy, he said. Tessa tilted her head. No. She looks seen. He didn't respond. After the wedding, everything felt lighter. Not just because of what was said at dinner or what wasn't, not even because of the finality in Nathan's expression. The quiet defeat in his eyes when I told him sleeping with someone else wasn't a mistake, it was a choice. No. It was because for the first time in 10 years I wasn't waiting. I wasn't wondering if I was enough, or if he'd wake up one morning and realize he couldn't live without me. I wasn't holding my breath, hoping someone would see me clearly. Because someone already did. A week after the wedding, Leo asked if I wanted to go for a walk. Just a walk. No flowers. No planned destination. No surprise. He picked me up that Sunday afternoon in his navy hoodie and black jeans, hair a little messy from the wind, a soft smile tugging at his lips like he already knew something I didn't. Where to? I asked. You'll see, he said and gently slipped his fingers through mine. We walked for 10 minutes before the buildings started to look familiar. Cambridge. Harvard. My boots crunched against the gravel paths as we stepped under the old brick arches, ivy curling up the stone walls like it belonged there, like it had waited years just to decorate the present. This place still makes me nervous, I laughed. I swear I get PTSD from midterms just standing here. Leo smiled and glanced around. You know, I've been wanting to tell you something. And I figured this was the right place. Oh. I raised an eyebrow. He tugged me toward the open space by the outdoor basketball court tucked behind one of the older buildings. It was quiet. The net swayed slightly in the wind. Leo looked at it for a moment then turned to me. You probably don't remember. But this is where I first saw you. I blinked. Here. Yep. He stepped toward the edge of the court, standing on the faded white line. I was a freshman. You were already in your second year. I was here late one night shooting hoops and I rolled my ankle pretty badly. I fell straight on my face. I laughed, picturing it. Sounds painful. It was, he said with a grin. But the worst part? My friends had ditched me for a party and I was lying there like an idiot thinking, well, this is it. I'm going to die in gym shorts. I smiled, leaning against the fence. Tragic. That's when you showed up. With a tote bag, 2 books in your hand, and that signature Kara expression, half curious, half unimpressed. My eyes widened. Wait, that was you? He nodded. You knelt beside me, pulled out a mini first aid kit from your bag and started wrapping my ankle like it was just another Tuesday. Didn't even ask my name. I stared at him, memories slowly piecing together. I remember you wouldn't stop talking. I was nervous, he admitted. You were way too pretty and I was bleeding. I laughed again, covering my mouth. Leo's voice softened. You handed me an ice pack from your lunch bag. Then you stood up and said, next time maybe look up while dribbling? Oh my God. I limped back to my dorm with a bruised ego and a crush the size of Boston. My smile faded into something quieter. Something gentler. You never said anything. I was just some awkward underclassman, he shrugged. You had your world. Your friends. And to him. Nathan. Of course he meant Nathan. The silence between us stretched a little. Leo leaned against the chain-link fence, eyes tracing the faded lines of the court. I used to come here sometimes after that, he said. Just to see if maybe you'd walk by again. You never did. I swallowed. Then years went by. And you were always just, this unreachable idea. Like the girl who patched me up and disappeared. I looked at him. And now? He turned to me fully. Now you're the woman who chose to stay. My throat tightened. He stepped closer, brushing a strand of hair behind my ear. I never thought I'd get a second chance. I didn't think I'd even be remembered. But when I saw you again standing outside that reunion hall holding that watch, I knew. Knew what? That this time, he whispered, I wouldn't be invisible. We sat on the cold bench just outside the court, hands still entwined. A group of students passed by with laughter and skateboards, but I barely noticed them. All I could hear was the echo of my own heart, steady, unhurried. No longer begging to be heard. I wasted so much time, I murmured, staring at my knees. 10 years, Leo. 10 years waiting for someone who never looked back. You didn't waste it, he said softly. You were learning how to love. You just hadn't learned how to choose yourself yet. I turned to him. His eyes held nothing but sincerity. I watched you from a distance all those years, he continued. Not because I was afraid, but because I knew you weren't ready. Not for me. Not even for you. And now. He smiled. Now you're here. And I finally get to stand beside you. We wandered the rest of the campus slowly, past the science buildings, the dorms, the old bookstore with the creaky wooden floor. I stopped outside the main gate, tracing my fingers across the metal bars I used to lean against while waiting for late-night buses. How many times had I stood there, hoping for a call, a message, a sign from Nathan? How many versions of myself had broken silently in these very shadows? And yet now, under the same fading sun, I felt whole. I didn't show up too late, I whispered. Leo looked over. I turned to him with a slow smile. I finally showed up for myself. He didn't say anything. He just took my hand again. And together we walked forward. The end.